Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T, here on behalf of Bleacher Report with the day after reaction to the 28-27 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers in week number 10 for the Washington Commanders. Lots to get to today. And I want to start with something that hit me like a ton of bricks yesterday. So, yesterday was a tough one. If you're a fan of the Commanders, it was one of those losses that losing happens and it's a part of the game, and you understand that I never expected the Commanders to go undefeated the remainder of the season. There are going to be more losses. This is not their final loss this season. One would hope that it is, but the reality of the situation is it's not, right? And so yesterday we knew it was going to be a tough game. We knew that we had some challenges facing us going into the game. No Andrew Wiley at right tackle, no Cornelius Lucas available. If something were to happen to any of the other tackles, like I don't know what we would have done had anything happened to Brandon Coleman or Trent Scott, in the course of the game. Obviously, Wiley was available, but that was a break of in case of emergency type situation. They really didn't want to play him. And so we were in dire straits at the tackle position. We didn't have our starting running back, Brian Robinson, for the third consecutive week now, I believe it is. We did not have our place kicker, which didn't bite us in this game, but I'm not super comfortable with Zane Gonzalez being our, kickoff specialist. He didn't, kick the football out of bounds a ton. I think he only kicked it, out of the end zone once or twice. So he kept within the framework of what we had set up in terms of making teams return it to the 30. If you want it at the 30, you got to run it back to the 30. We're not giving it to you at the 30. There are no free lunches, no free meals around here against this Commander special teams unit. And I love that. So we had a lot of challenges that we had to overcome, but there was no excuse. I expected to win that game. And when you look at how the defense played, forcing the 2 turnovers, getting some stops throughout the game. Russell Wilson did not have a great game, and you have to credit this defense for him not having a superior game. Their run game was solid. It wasn't earth-shattering. They had their moments in the run game, but for the most part, we did what we needed to do there as well. And when you look at the opportunities that this team was up 24-14 in this game, it still boggles the mind how we weren't able to score more than 3 points the remainder of the game after scoring touchdowns on the final possession of the first half and the first possession of the second half, how we were only able to muster 3 points after the amount of opportunities we had, the amount of possessions that we had, great field position a number of times. It's still mind-boggling, that we didn't come away with more points than 27. But that said, the biggest takeaway from that game is I care more now than I have in a very long time. And when I was a kid growing up, this team was everything for me. And a loss would send my week into a tizzy. I'd get upset and I wouldn't be okay until like Wednesday or Thursday of that week if we lost. And growing up, we lost a lot. My dad, he's a Cowboys fan, and he would always say, you better get used to that because your team sucks. And he was right. I didn't want to hear that because we had just won the Super Bowl, 2-3 years prior. So I was like, nah, we'll be back. And we weren't. And we haven't been back ever since. And we did a lot of losing in the 90s. And so eventually I got to a point where it didn't affect me as much. And then came the 99 season and it sucked me back in. And from that point forward, I was one of those fans that, if we didn't win, my whole day, and half of my week was wrecked. And then Snyder came along and that changed probably around maybe 20. It took a while. The fatigue took a while to set in. I'd say I got to a point around 2009, I would say, with Jim Zorn, that second year of Zorn, where I just kind of mentally checked out and I didn't have that same feeling anymore. And then it kind of came back in 2012 and it stuck around, right? And in 2015, it kind of got reinvigorated again. And then I think it died for good when the name Redskins changed back in 2020, July of 2020. So at that point, I thought I was still like all the way in. Like, yeah, I'm gung ho for this team. I'm all the way in. And I do love this team, but I think what yesterday showed me is that I wasn't as committed as I had been once upon a time. Because yesterday's loss hit a little bit different. It hit different than the Buccaneers loss in week 1. You could justify that one. And plus, there was no expectations, for me at least. I can't speak for anyone else. There were no expectations with that Buccaneers game. You know, the entire season for that matter. Only thing that I was looking for at that time was, hey, at the end of this season, do we have ourselves a signal caller or not? Do we have our guy? Did we get it right in the draft? Then week 3 against Cincinnati happened and everything changed. And from that point forward, it wasn't just okay to find out if we had a quarterback. We already knew after the 3rd game of the season that we had gotten a guy, and he wasn't just a guy, he was one of them ones. It's different now. And as you start to go to Arizona, win by 28, come back home, beat Cleveland by 21, stomp a mud hole in Carolina with a backup quarterback, you start to see that this is real. And the Ravens loss, it was kind of like, I don't want to say it was expected, but I didn't think we could beat a team like that yet. I was hoping we could. And I went into that game not as confident as I was against the Steelers this past weekend, but I went in confident that we could compete. And if given the opportunity, we could win. That didn't happen, but I wasn't as distraught. Maybe because I saw that as a, teachable moment. Defense isn't good enough. You kind of reconcile certain things in your brain and you make peace with it. But that's not how I felt after Sunday's loss to the Steelers. No. That one felt different. And I've been telling the fans, and I've been saying this is a rallying cry and a mantra for me this year. It feels different because it is different. And that loss on Sunday was different because that was a good Pittsburgh Steelers team that we played. And we knew they were a good team, hence the 6-2 record. For the first time in a long time, we were favored in a game against a really good opponent. Like, that doesn't happen. We still were getting those side eyes from, Vegas. Not really sure about you. We're playing the Giants, a couple weeks ago, and Vegas is like, yeah, you're like a 2-3 point favorite. Like, the Giants stink. We should be more than a 2 or 3 point favorite, but they didn't believe in us. I think we ended up going off as 3.5, 4 point favorites in that game. Now, we only won by 5, so they weren't that far off, but we usually aren't favored against teams like Pittsburgh. And there's starting to become this belief. We were top 5 in all of these power rankings, and you go into that game expecting to win. I expect this team to win. They've set a standard now that's different, specifically on offense. Then you go make the trade for Marshawn Lattimore, and you're like, yo, as soon as he gets healthy and he's ready to rock and roll, look out. That's the weakest part of our team, and we just strengthened it significantly and upgraded it. We have a chance. Then you go out and you have a performance like the one on Sunday where, nope, we didn't have our fastball. Jaden Daniels, you could argue, had his most uneven performance of his NFL career. I don't think it's an argument. I think that's facts. He missed throws in that game we haven't seen him miss all season long. The receivers, I think they've been outstanding this season. And for what they are and for where they rank amongst the NFL in terms of a positional group, I think we've gotten a ton out of the wide receiver position. But they were subpar on Sunday outside of Terry McLaurin. It was drops galore. And when you look at all of the missed opportunities in the game, from Jaden being a little errant to the receivers, dropping passes, to the two muff punts by Olamide OZ. I think he pronounces his name Olamide Zacchaeus. With the two muff punts and the one that ultimately was recovered by the Steelers, that was all balanced out by their fake punt that they didn't convert. So I don't really want to harp too much on the OZ muff punt, but just because one happened doesn't mean the other still wouldn't have happened. He didn't have to muff that punt for the Steelers to then not catch their fake punt. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, even with all those things, that game was there for the taking. Still, and that's how you know you're a good team, when you don't play your best and you make all the mistakes. And this is not the first time that we've talked about this team making a bunch of mistakes. This one was different because in past games, it's been penalties that have been like the undoing of this team in the red zone, specifically on offense. This game, it wasn't necessarily the penalties, although there were some in there. It was really the drop passes, the missed opportunities with throws, the muff punt. It was really, some bad decisions, on the part of Jaden trying to outrun, Cam Hayward by reversing instead of just outrunning him to the right. It's De'Ami Brown deciding that he's not going to throw the double pass back to Jaden Daniels, and I don't know what he was doing. And it's having the football in plus territory and then taking a 11-yard sack and then having another play that is like a -8 and then having a punt. And you go, what just happened to that drive? It's not taking advantage of great field position over and over and over again in the second half. It's not being able to get a stop on 3rd and 9 at the end of the game when you're playing 10 yards off and you let a 4-6 receiver run by you and beat you by 3 or 4 steps. It's all those things combined that makes you go, wow. And then the cherry on top, and I'm not a big officials guy. So I don't like blaming the officials for a loss because, again, it always evens itself out. Bad call over here, bad call over there, right? My whole thing is, as long as you keep it consistent, and they were consistently bad for both teams, I felt, until the very bitter end when they didn't at least respot the football. It kind of felt lazy to me. And going back and watching it, it's even more egregious after the fact. And the thing that is so maddening is that you got assistance from New York. You went under the hood. You took a look at the play, and you had every angle and every way you could piece it together to see that ball was close as close could be to the 41, which is where the ball needed to get. And you can't convince me that ball didn't get to the 41. You can't tell me that it wasn't at least the nose of the ball was on the 41. You can't tell me otherwise. For you to put the ball basically at the 42, that is a travesty. It is a travesty. It is highway robbery. For you to go under the hood, look at all of those angles, and determine that ball wasn't at least worth respotting and then measuring again. It's almost as if they just threw their hands up and said, hey, we just want this game to be over with. Let's just get this thing over with. That is egregious. And so after all of that takes place, and then you get to that final opportunity, and you realize this is it. Defense gives up 6 yards on 3rd and 7, allowing the Steelers to line up on a 4th and 1 as if they weren't going to snap the ball. Mike Tomlin's playing coy after, guess we'll never know. They weren't going to snap the ball. They weren't going to snap the ball. Mike Tomlin is a conservative coach. He's defensive-minded. He was going to trust that his defense was going to get a stop. I'm a degenerate. He wasn't going to snap that football. That was a no snap, no play, and we gave him a first. And to see it end in that fashion, it was the cherry on top of a disgusting Sunday, pun intended. And after that game was over, I felt like garbage. For the first time as a fan in probably a decade. You probably got to go back to 2015 is the last time a game probably affected me. That was the playoff game against Green Bay. I didn't feel bad after the 2020 playoff. We weren't supposed to be there. We were a sub 500 team. I didn't feel bad after that. Hell, I was excited. We competed with Tom Brady and the Bucks. I was one of those Dodo fans that was excited to be competing. Now, I wasn't one of those people saying that we had them, dead to rights and we let them off the hook or anything like that. But I was excited. We competed. I didn't think we were going to beat the Buccaneers. Just happy to be in that game as a 7-9 division winner. But I wasn't upset after that game. Last game that I was truly upset because I thought we were better than the Green Bay Packers in 2015. We had already beaten them, if I'm not mistaken, in that regular season. I think we had already beaten them. If not, we beat them the next year in 2016 on a Sunday night. Either or. I felt like we were capable of beating them, and we should have beat them. And we just didn't. We made too many mistakes. We jumped on them early, and we let them off the hook. And I felt awful after that game. And I think that was the last time as a fan that I truly felt awful. I was not in a good headspace after yesterday's game. And what that tells me is that I care again. I really, truly do care again. Like, I thought I did care all this time, and I truly didn't care as much. I'm back as a fan, and I think I speak for the entire fan base when I say, I'm back. This team, this organization, we're back. That should have been a win. And instead of parading around excited that we lost by 1 point to a good Steelers team, we were pissed that we didn't beat them and score 40 in the process. That's where the bar is now. We expect not only to beat teams like that, but to be able to score and run it up. And if we would have made the plays that were there to be made, if we didn't have 6 drops, if we didn't have 2 or 3 missed opportunities from a throw standpoint from Jaden Daniels, if we didn't muff a punt that's recovered and turned into a touchdown, if we don't give up a 3rd and 9, desperation deep ball, this isn't even close. But instead, those things did happen, and we did lose this game. And much like Sam Cosmi, one of the veteran leaders in that locker room, just got his extension this year and well-deserved, playing like an all-pro guard this season. Stepped up after this game, and he told the players in that locker room, we got a standard here, and we got to play better, and the little things, they add up. And that was one of those games where all of those little mistakes, they finally added up to a loss, because it should have added up to a loss against Chicago. We got away because of one of the greatest endings in NFL regular season history. We got away because of one of the greatest endings. But we should have lost that game because we had a lot of little mistakes that usually add up to defeat. And it finally caught up with us. And hopefully this is the wake-up call that we need to put the level of focus that needs to be in every single contest, especially when you're playing good teams. And Jaden Daniels, after the game, said his biggest takeaway from yesterday's loss is that when you're playing good teams, and I said this literally directly after the game. Matter of fact, I said it on the Bleacher Report stream. Then I said it in my stream on my channel after the game. Same thing, same message. Before I even heard Jaden Daniels speak, I said, what you have to understand is that when you're playing better opponents, this ain't the Bears, it's not the Browns, it's not the Giants twice. You don't get away with making mistakes and still be victorious when you're playing better opponents, when you're playing quality teams like the Steelers, like the Ravens, like the Eagles here on this quick turnaround on Thursday Night Football. You want to beat teams like that, you're going to have to play your best brand of football. That means the concentration drops. It ain't good enough to hit your chest and say, my bad. That's a play that ends the drive. You drop that pass, that's a gain of 25. We're in field goal range. Instead, you drop that pass. The next play is a sack, and the next play is De'Ami Brown double pass that he doesn't throw, and now we're punting the football after 2 plays of losses of 11 and 7. Instead of being in field goal range with a chance to push the lead out to 2 scores at 30-21. That opportunity was robbed from us because of a concentration drop on a perfect throw by Zach Ertz. My bad ain't good enough. You got to make the plays that are there. Luckily for De'Ami Brown, that was a first down drop and not a third down drop. Or else now you got to make a tough decision. Do we go for it on 4th down or do we settle for a field goal because you dropped the football? My bad ain't good enough. I can live with the penalties, during a play. Again, it's all a part of doing business, right? It's the cost of doing business. You're going to have a hands to the face penalty. You don't want to, but they happen. You're going to grab a face mask trying to make a tackle. You don't want to, but it happens. You're going to grab somebody by their nameplate, or you're going to grab somebody by the horse collar to get them down. You don't want to, but it happens. Those things happen. You're going to have illegal contact down the field on 3rd and 11, and that sucks because it's a 5-yard penalty, but it's an automatic first down. You don't want it to happen, but it happens. You're going to have a false start penalty. You're going to have a guy line up illegally. All right. You're not going to cover up the tackle. You're going to have a legal formation. You hope those things don't happen, but generally they do in the course of an NFL game. You're going to have a guy illegally downfield. You don't want to, but it happens. But what you can avoid are the drop passes. All that takes is just a little bit of focus, seeing the ball go into your hands. Just making sure you do the little things. Secure that block, secure that edge. And we didn't do that yesterday. Jaden makes an excellent play, gets outside the pocket, rolls to his right, hits a dime on the right sideline to Noah Brown, and it's a holding penalty on Tyler Biadasz. These are the types of penalties that kill drives, and it killed that drive. And so yesterday was a reminder of, look, and I say this all the time, there's levels to this. There's levels to this. And your play, your attention to detail, your situational awareness, which we lacked all of those things yesterday, right? Obviously with the Johnny Newton offsides when they weren't going to snap the ball, that's situational awareness, right? Frankie Louvu, I think he did it at the end of the first quarter, right? Steelers weren't going to snap the football. It's the end of the first quarter. They just get up on the ball, right? Try to see if they can get a free 5. Or I think that might have been against the Giants the week before, right? They're not snapping this football. What are you jumping off sides for, right? Situational awareness. It's the attention to detail. Catching the football. Whether it's a punt, and I get it, the wind was kind of swirling yesterday. Hey, if you're not sure, move out of the way, right? But what we can't have is the ball hitting off your face mask twice and one of them going to the Steelers. Can't have that. Or something as simple as just catching the rock, just catching the football. And so when you're playing better opponents, you can't have those types of mistakes because you're going to get beat. And that's what happened yesterday. But the biggest takeaway is I care a lot more as a fan because I'm back. This team has me fully engaged. I'm fully invested. Thought I was before, but I wasn't. I am now. And I'm not saying that that's entirely healthy either, right? I want to walk around like a grump, all day and having an attitude because my favorite team lost a game that they should have won. But that was my mentals for about a good 2 hours after that game. And I shook it off pretty well, but I haven't felt that way in a while. And I was hot. And because I knew we let one slip. And here are the ramifications of that. And we talked about this yesterday, but I'm going to reiterate it again the day after. Because at that time, the Eagles had not beaten the Cowboys yet, but we knew they were going to beat the Cowboys. The Cowboys are in a state of disarray. They're a mess. They're an abject disaster, right? So we already know what It is. We knew what the Eagles were going to do to them. So it was only a matter of time, and they took care of business. And so now the Eagles are 7-2. We're 7-3. We're a half game behind them in the division. And now that takes this Thursday night game and it turns it up to another level, because in essence, you have to win this game if you're the Commanders. The season's not over if you don't. Falling to 7-4 isn't a death sentence, but what it does is it makes your path to winning the division that much tougher. Now, I will say this, and this is one of the things that I feel really good about. We've played the toughest portion after we play this game against the Eagles. Now that the Cowboys are non-threatening, we've played the toughest portion of our schedule after this game on Thursday night against the Eagles. This was the toughest portion of the schedule. And if we can find a way to win Thursday night, and I like our chances, but I'm going to need all hands on deck. I'm going to need Andrew Wiley to suit up. I'm going to need Brian Robinson Jr. to suit up. You know, it'd be nice to have my place kicker back, you know, Austin Seibert. But if not, Zane Gonzalez hopefully is able to fill in admirably like he did on Sunday. But, you know, I'm going to need all hands on deck. It'd be nice to have Cornelius Lucas back. I'm not holding my breath. And I know I'm not even going to ask for Marshawn Lattimore, because I've already said I don't think he's going to be back until the Cowboys game, right, in week 12, which seems more realistic than a quick turnaround on Thursday Night Football against the Eagles. But with that said, if we can somehow beat the Eagles on Thursday night, this team is tired. I told you guys this after. This team is tired. They're beat up mentally, physically, emotionally. They're spent. They need some time. And if they can find a way to beat the Eagles, those 10 days after that game are going to do wonders for this team. I kid you not. Those 10 days are going to be magical for this team. It will allow them to finish up these 3 games that they have remaining prior to the bye. It'll allow them to finish, or the 2 games, excuse me. I think they have Dallas and then the Titans and then the bye, right? It'll allow them to go through those 2 games with a pep in their step. And then you get that bye, and then that's going to allow us to finish this thing up strong. Saints, Eagles, Falcons, Cowboys, right? It is going to allow you to really finish strong down the stretch and power through the finish line. But we got to find a way to get through this one on Thursday night. And because of this loss, you practically don't want to fall down a game and a half to the Eagles. But this is the point I was trying to make earlier, not to get all flustered. They haven't played the toughest stretch of their season yet. They haven't played the Ravens. They haven't played the Steelers yet. They still got us again. This one's at home for them. They better win this one, because I can assure you, by the time they see us the next time, between this 10-day rest that's coming after this Thursday night game and the bye week, they're going to get a fully locked and loaded Jaden Daniels. They will not get a fully locked and loaded Jaden Daniels this first time. They're not. He's still nursing the ribs. He needs time. Time's coming after this Thursday night game, and it's definitely coming after the bye week, right? Or during the bye week. So we have 14 days to just rest, get the treatment that he needs, and do the exercises, the core exercises to strengthen the situation, and he can be back to his normal self. They'll see the Jaden Daniels that other teams saw earlier this season in week 15, I believe, 16, I think is when we have the Eagles the next time. They'll see a different Jaden Daniels than the one they're going to get on Thursday night. So if they don't get us this time, I'm looking for the season sweep. But I don't like putting myself in a position where I need others to do my dirty work for me. I don't want to rely on the Ravens or the Steelers to have to beat the Eagles for me so that we can have a chance at winning this division. I don't want to ask a bad Dallas Cowboys team to beat the Eagles, because they're not going to do it, right? So I'm not even trying to put ourselves in that position. Let's take care of business. Let's beat the Eagles, take back first place, get those 10 days off, come off that 10-day hiatus, take care of Dallas at home, take care of the Titans, go into the bye week, and come out of that thing refreshed and ready to rip up the rest of the schedule down the stretch and bring home this NFC East championship. That's my mindset. I've already turned the page. After that loss, Thursday night, having a Thursday night game, I'm not a big fan of Thursday night games. But this one was perfectly timed. I would have loved a full week to get ready for these Eagles. And I would have preferred this be the Titans or somebody on a Thursday night. Somebody else you feel really more comfortable handling and pushing back that timeline so that a guy like Marshawn Lattimore is ready for the Eagles game because we're going to need him, right? But I'm just glad we're playing on Thursday because that one yesterday, that one stung. And I wanted to stick it to the Steelers fans. They come in with their terrible towels and they're talking trash. And the Steelers social media, made jokes about us giving out the towels, the burgundy towels and all of that stuff. And I wanted that bad so we could stick it to them, stick it to their fan base and let them know it's different around here. I can't tell you the last time we've beaten the Pittsburgh Steelers in DC, in the DMV area. I still can't after this game. You probably got to go all the way back to like 2000. We didn't do it in 2008. We didn't do it in 2016. And we didn't do it in 2024. So that was an opportunity missed. Slipped right through our fingers. Just like those passes yesterday. So now I'm frustrated. I'm disappointed. I'm upset. I'm a lot of different things. Somebody's got to get this work. Somebody's got to take the brunt of all of these emotions that are running through me as a fan. And I think running through that locker room, through that team. And I'm glad it's the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm feeling good, man, on this Monday, this day after this loss, even though I was distraught yesterday. I'm feeling good knowing that this team, they're close. And, we could be a Marshawn Lattimore piece away from this thing being what we needed to be. This defense is improving, man. This defense is improving. They really are. They're starting to create turnovers. They're getting stops. They're getting off the field on third downs. And if you could just take Benjamin St-Juste off the field and insert a 4-time Pro Bowl corner in Marshawn Lattimore, it changes things drastically on the back end. We're getting good pressure on the quarterback. The run defense can improve when you're able to add an extra defender to the box because you trust Marshawn on one side of the field. And even when we don't necessarily love bringing that second safety down or that eighth defender or that extra defender in the box, and you don't want to bring that and you want to stay with a too high shell, we are stopping the run better. It's not always perfect, but we're stopping the run better in those looks and those situations. So this defense is improving. But we know what the missing link is. We know what the missing piece is. Now, the question is, do they? Because the prevailing thought from most people, not me, but the prevailing thought from most people is, oh, they'll kick Mike Sainristil inside, keep Benjamin St-Juste outside, and add Marshawn Lattimore to the mix. My answer to that is no. You take Benjamin St-Juste off the field and insert Marshawn Lattimore. That is the only thing you need to do. You leave Mike Sainristil alone outside, and if you want to kick him back inside after the season when you go out and sign another corner or draft another corner or do both to add to Marshawn Lattimore on the outside, go right ahead. You can kick him back into his natural position and go from there in the offseason. If it's not broken right now, please do not look to fix it. I think that Noah Igbenogany is playing well inside as a slot. If it is not broken, please do not look to fix it. What is broken is Benjamin St-Juste on the outside. He's a walking penalty. And if he's not giving up a penalty, he's getting beat. So at this point, we see what the problem is. Correct that. Correct that. Instead of messing around with other parts that aren't broken. Fix the part that is broken. You have the means to do so, so do it. So hopefully when that bridge is ready to be crossed, they make the right decision. Because that 3rd and 9, I wanted to believe that there was some sort of double move. He came up and he pressed and he got beat because he was looking at a big receiver that can't run. So he figured, hey, I can get in his face, delete the airspace, and disrupt the timing of this route. This man was 10 yards off and got run by without a double move. Wasn't a sluggo. He just got run by. And maybe he was playing sticks on 3rd and 9 and he was anticipating something and he got something else. I don't care about what his mentals was or were on that play. He got cooked by a 4-6 receiver coming off of major knee surgery who was irrelevant with the Jets in his first game there in Pittsburgh. After only being there for 5 or 6 days, you got cooked by a guy that might have played 7 snaps in the game on Sunday. Inexcusable. Inexcusable. So I hope they make the right decision when that time comes. But I'm feeling good about this game coming up. I need us to get, I need Tyler Biadasz to be okay, right? He left the game with an ankle injury, came back. He was not himself when he came back. Gave up the holding penalty, gave up another pressure, gave up a sack. He was not himself when he came back because he's been dominant this season, has Biadasz. But I need him. I need him on Sunday or Thursday, excuse me. I need Andrew Wiley on Thursday, right? I need all hands on deck. I need Brian Robinson Jr. on Thursday. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, I digress. We should be 8-2 right now. Not 7-3. And watching the Lions last night do what they did, even though they found a way to win, and that's a gritty team, and something to be said about the ability to overcome the type of adversity they were faced with last night to still find a way to come out on top on the road in a game like that speaks volumes to where the Lions are. We're not there yet. That's what I'm talking about. That takes experience. That takes going through the fire. They've been there. They've been down in games. They've faced tough road environments, and they may have failed like they did in the NFC Championship game last year, but they've been in those situations, so they know how to overcome. And that I think you can only get some of that stuff with experience. But yesterday was it was a teachable moment for the Commanders, this young team. And I ultimately think that when it's all said and done, what just happened there? What just happened? Did it really just cut out on me? That was crazy. Anyway, it felt like it just cut out on me. Maybe you guys were still seeing me this entire time, but it definitely made me re-log in and all that stuff. But I digress. I'm rambling at this point. Y'all know what it is. I feel good about where we are. Nothing has changed. Other than I'm gaining slowly but surely more confidence in this defense. I didn't really know what to expect yesterday. Coming off that Giants game where we made Daniel Jones look pretty solid yet again, gave them confidence. Everybody seems to be able to defend Daniel Jones and make him look pedestrian, except us. The Panthers even picked him off twice yesterday, right? But yet we can't pick him off. We can't make him look, pedestrian like everybody else does. So you got your questions. You ask yourself, Is this defense capable? And then they go out and they play the way that they played yesterday. And no, they're capable, especially when they finally are able to add a piece like Marshawn Lattimore. They're capable. Now we just need the offense to step back up and get back to where they were earlier in the season. And it's not because there's tape out on Jaden Daniels and, teams have figured out what we're doing. Nope, guys were running open yesterday. Jaden missed some open receivers and guys dropped footballs yesterday. The opportunities are still there to score 40. Still there. And all of this is being done without Jaden Daniels being a run threat. Wait till he's healthy enough. And I think that happens post-bye, right? Wait till he's healthy enough to start running again and to start being a part of the run game again. Wait till that happens. Things can get pretty interesting again, but I digress. You can tell that right now, and they can tell us whatever they want. I think a lot of the play calling, especially with the run game, is taking into consideration Jaden as a runner, and they don't want him doing that because of his current state. I don't blame them. How many called runs did we see for Jaden? Every game we used to get at least 3 or 4 called Jaden Daniels keepers. And then the read options, he was keeping them a lot more. I'm pretty sure he's been advised. Unless they're absolutely crashing down on the running back, collapsing down, and you've got a clear path to either the sideline or, a sizable gain or an opportunity to run, get some yards, and get down, don't pull it. We don't want you taking hits. And you can see that clearly he is not pulling the ball when he could, which he was earlier in the season. So wait till he's a factor in the run game again. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on behalf of Bleacher Report. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time, day after the Steelers lost. I'm feeling a lot better than I was a day ago. That's for sure. I was pretty down yesterday. I'm reinvigorated, but more importantly, I'm locked in. And I think this team is as well. There's a brotherhood that's been created. They rallied around Johnny Newton. That's awesome. I love to see it. He made a mistake yesterday. I'm not beating him up for it. It happens. You don't want it to, but it's a part of the learning process. He's a rookie. He made a rookie mistake. Hopefully, he doesn't repeat said rookie mistake. And so you learn from those and you move forward. Tough lesson to learn. I'd like to see the NFL be better about these calls, these judgment calls. You had a chance. Like, there's certain calls that don't get called, like the end of the Bengals and Ravens game where they didn't call roughing the passer. You can't challenge that. They didn't call pass interference. You can't challenge that. This was a challengeable offense that you had a chance to look at. You could have rectified the situation by moving the football, and you just chose to do nothing because it was the easy thing to do. Not because it was the right thing to do, because it was the easy thing to do. You took the easy way out yesterday. Instead of doing the hard thing and saying, hey, let's look at this and determine where we should spot this ball and then remeasure, you did the easy thing. You did what is called being convenient. You did the convenient thing, which is usually the easy thing. Just leave it alone. Just leave it where it is. Call stands on the field. You know what referees do when they don't really want to sort out what happened on the field? You get a flag, you get a flag. Personal foul, unnecessary roughness or personal foul, unsportsmanlike conduct. This guy on that team and unsportsmanlike conduct, this guy on that team. And we're going to call it even and we're going to play on because that's convenient. Instead of figuring out who did what, we're not doing all of that. You get one, you get one. It's offsetters. Let's move forward. That's convenient. What they did under the hood in the end of the game with the game on the line was convenient. And that ain't good enough. That's trash. They should be ashamed of themselves. But I digress. I'm out of here. You guys have a good one. Take care. See you next time.